chaps. Now I know this isn't very gardeny, and if you don't fancy a bit of fish action, just skip forward. I'll be back in the garden shortly, but January's just started to get me down a little bit, and so I thought, go and do something completely different. And there was an offer on, and I haven't been to the London Aquarium since I was maybe about 10, so I thought, why not go and do something super touristy and go and have a look at some fish for a bit. So yeah, we're starting this episode with fish, but we'll be back in the garden soon, and sowing stuff. Exciting times, but fish first. Fish first. It's snowing! Okay, it's not a wintry wonderland, but it is snowing. Anyway, I have got so much sowing to do and nowhere to put any seed trays, so I've got to build some shelves. Four gorgeous girlies, huh? All lined up. You ready for your breakfast? Oh yeah. Are you ready for a bit of something extra? Girly whirly whirlies, yeah. Gorge. What do we got going on in here? 2.9.
That's pretty good, actually. Only once has it got below 3.
That's pretty good.
It's got up to 7.7.
7 is better than nothing. Oh God, we got a lot of work to do in here. They look all right though, don't they? Carrots are coming on okay. Those broad beans just got eaten off.
Yes, I think this one can go out with the others.
Yeah, I'll chuck that one out.
We've got plenty more in there.
We got that chard that we're going to hold on to till spring.
Yes.
Lovely. Oh dear, the tarragon doesn't look too hot.
No, that doesn't, but
The baby ones do.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's blooming cold, Mum. Blooming cold. Yeah. Right, so leaf mould, I think, is the first thing on the list. Sorry, Rube. Sorry, that Rube. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I should be all right just getting these in, I think. Right. There is. Okay. Which bin do you want me to put it in? Is it obvious which one?
See, there's 2 bins. I'm taking it off.
One's quite full. Actually, yeah, I do want the hands. Hello there, Sosa. Meow, meow. Hello. Oh, you're lovely and warm, pussycat. You're lovely and warm. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 beautiful girl. Meow, meow, meow. Good morning. Actually, it's afternoon. My hands are so cold. I'll find some gloves. Yeah, it is a very, very grey day. The forecast said beautiful sunshine. So we held off and held off and held off. It was supposed to be from like sunrise to sunset today, sunshine. The sky is grey and it's about 2 degrees and it feels like about 2 degrees as well. Anyway. Oh, I keep stopping for the aeroplanes. I don't think I need to do that anymore, do I? So it's now Saturday and I had a busy old day yesterday. 2 things. Firstly, I did like a impromptu sort of interview with Tony over on the Potty Mouth channel, which was quite nice, a bit of a chat. So that's up. I'll put a link to that. But the other thing I did yesterday was I recorded an extra video. It's only short, very tiny video, just about the things that I'm going to be sowing, or the things you can sow in January, which is what I will be doing this afternoon. I just thought we'd better get out here because I haven't really been up here. That was the cat. Not convenient, Lils. You see her just skulking off there? This tripod's got a very low arch and she's just gone straight underneath it and knocked it. Lovely. What was I saying? Yes, so this afternoon I'm going to be doing some of the things that I mentioned in that video. I've got to sow some lettuce I'm going to put in. I'm also going to start some microgreens, which I'm pretty excited about. I've had, I'd say, varying levels of success on microgreens, most of them on the not successful end. But Ian, Grown Local, has actually given me some to try out, and they seem to work brilliantly for everybody else. So I think it's just something I'm doing wrong. So I'm going to follow the instructions and set some microgreens off, which will be exciting. So what did I say? Lettuce. I'm going to start some coriander, just some bits and pieces really. And I don't know whether it's just habit that I'm stopping for the aeroplanes, because I've got the mic on. I don't know how, when I get this bit of footage home, I'll know how bad it is. I could just be stopping for no reason now. Yeah, the big bit of sowing excitement that's happening this afternoon are the peppers are going in. So I put my chilies in 2 weeks ago now. No sightings yet because I only just watered them last week because I didn't have my heat mat set up or anything. And actually I'm really worried that they're nowhere near 28 degrees, so I might have to do a bit of jiggle. But sweet peppers are going in, which I'm quite excited about. I've got a big decision to make on there because I've got so many seeds, so many varieties of sweet pepper. I've got to be a bit more discerning about which ones I grow, because otherwise I'm just going to have too many again. And what was the other thing? Oh yes, aubergines and the January cucumbers are going in. So it's all excitement. But the big question is, what are we doing up here? Obviously, there's just endless amounts of leaves to go in the leaf mould bin, obviously. But I've been having a bit of a think about the archway situation. Let me show you what I'm thinking. So our bean arches have been wildly successful, and I will continue growing beans up them for the foreseeable because it's so good. However, these are the super cheap arches and they've lasted 4 years or so, but now you can see things are going wrong. Now, how we managed to get them to last 4 years, because they really are those £10 arches. Firstly, I've got them in pairs, so they've got the strength of having 4 legs rather than just 2, and then they're tied together with bamboo canes, which gives them quite a lot of extra strength. We have some of the uprights from the old flimsy polytunnel that got screwed up by the wind, the original one. You know, it's just one of those, just like green bag affairs, you know, the archway ones. In fact, the side of the chicken house there is made of the roof struts from it. So it went to good use after the destruction. But we've got those at the bottom of all of these arches, and they go down about 1.5 foot, and they've made such a difference to the strength because they just haven't rocked in the ground and they've stayed strong. So we've had these arches up here for about, well, 4 years. This one is the oldest, and then we've got a couple more, and then the newest ones on the plots are the ones along that edge. But I'm going to have to do a bit of shifting. I'm doing all this pointing and stuff. I've just realised I could go over there and still talk to you. So I'm going to go over distance, do some gesticulating. You can still hear me. Okay, so these arches actually are still looking pretty strong, but it's mainly just the uprights from the old poly that are holding it. Like, they're not actually touching the ground themselves, they've rotted off at the base. So all of these up the main drag here, we've got 2, 4, 6 arches in 3 sets. So 3 arches really. They're all going to come out, they need to be replaced. But I have got these 4 arches along here, which are brand new. They only went in last year, or if it wasn't last year, it was the end of the year before. And they're all in really good nick. So I can definitely replace 2 pairs of arches, and I need to just buy another 2, although that one's looking pretty good. But I've had the beans growing, like I say, for 4 years in those 3 patches. And I think what I'm going to do is shift the whole lot along. So we'll have one set in this bed, one set in that bed, and one set further on. This is the perennial brassica cage that I built before I lost all my perennial brassicas. But it's built to the standard bed footprint, which is 2.4 metres by 1.2 metres. So it will fit on any one of these beds. Although typically the one bed that I haven't replaced is this one here next to the fruit cage. And this is the bed that I want to put it on. Couple of reasons I'm not just being difficult. It's handy here, it's protected by this, and also it means that in terms of like breaking up, being able to look out across the allotment, you've got all the tall things together, which is just a bit nicer than having kind of them blocking the view at that end. Aesthetic, yes, but also I think this is going to be a really good spot for it. They get good sun, and this hasn't had brassicas growing in it for a really long time, so I'm going to hopefully establish my perennial brassicas in this bed. What I've got growing in here at the moment is the overflow of the garlic that I couldn't fit in the pots in the greenhouse. It's the two varieties, the Checkmate and the Kingsland White are in there. And then I've just got some various chard. I've got one peppermint, I've got a couple of Beata, and they're in this end of the bed as well. But all of that will be coming out before it's time to plant the perennial brassicas, which I'll be growing from seed. And hopefully somebody's given me some cuttings of some of the 9-star. And yeah, I'll get some tree cabbages in here, 9-star, and I want some Taunton Dean kale. And so that's all going to be established up here. So that's my plan, which means I need to replace this bed. So I'm going to have to go and buy some more, what they called decking boards. That's it. And hope they haven't gone up in price too much, because everything else has. Actually, one other thing to mention, I really love growing on these singular arches, and again I have strengthened them at the top, so like the more arches you can put together, the stronger they are. However, this edge of the plot is the edge that is adjoining our neighbour, who has got a lot of plastic and stuff, and he currently isn't able to look after his allotment very well, so which means that we're getting a lot of weed overflow and also slugs and things like that. So we want to keep this path here completely clear, so we can just strim it, mow it, keep it like a bit of a no man's land barrier between the two plots. So this section is out. I'm going to take these little like half beds that I made out of here, because everything we planted in here, all the beans I put out this year, just got completely eaten. After all the germination problems in the greenhouse, then the ones that did survive came out here and just got scoffed instantly. So I'm not repeating that mistake next year. If you see me doing it, tell me off. But so these arches are going to be used along the main drag, and then I'm going to think about another way to put in some arches, because I don't really want them to kind of block the whole view of the allotment, and we've only got a short stretch where we've got beds on either side of the path that we can go over. However, I grow more bean varieties than I will have arches once I've taken these down, and I much prefer growing beans up arches than I do, say, a teepee or any other structure, because the joy of it is the beans grow up and over, and all the beans that you're trying to pick hang down in perfect easy reach. You can fit under the arch, you can pick your beans happy as Larry. When they're on a teepee, they still hang down, but they're hanging down into the centre of the teepee, which you don't have access to, and it becomes very difficult to see where the, first of all, to pick them is a pain, but also to actually see them. And for things like beans, peas, you have to keep picking. Once you start letting them go, they'll stop producing. So it's important to be able to pick off all the beans, and like on arches, you can just see them perfectly clearly, and it makes picking beans a joy. So I want to stick with the arches. I've just got to find more space for them. More space, it's always the issue.
Look at this little chap still flowering away, and I'm standing around complaining about how cold it is. Hey, tough little bugger.
Yeah, Mum and I have just been continuing discussions about like things we're going to do and the excitement of what we've got to plant when we get, or sow when we get home. And so we've been standing still for too long, and now we're absolutely frozen. So we're going to call it quits and come back in the morning. The weather forecast is lying to us again, I'm sure, but there's some incredibly tantalising sunshines symbols for the first couple of hours tomorrow. So we're going to come up here tomorrow morning, hopefully be a bit more prepared, because I feel well underdressed today. I hadn't quite realised it was so cold. And we're going to go home and sow some stuff. Chaps! Bit of January seed sowing. Marvellous. I mean, seed sowing at any time is pretty exciting, but it's at this time of year when all else is going on in your life is raking leaves. Bit of seed sowing, bit of compost in a seed tray is wildly exciting. So on the cards today are the aubergines, the sweet peppers, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, I'm going to sow a couple of cucumbers, but cucumbers are optional. I did a surprise video on Saturday that was just about things that I'm going to be sowing in January, things that you can sow, things that maybe you don't want to sow. And one of the things that I mentioned in there was the cucumbers. I did get some raised eyebrows, but I do explain. I do explain. So the thing I wanted to talk to you first about is my chilies, which technically I sowed them on the 1st of January. Very excited I was. But then I realised that not only had I not dug out my little heated propagator thing that they sit in, but that I didn't have my grow space cleared out downstairs or anything. So I left them in the dry compost unwatered for, it was about a week. Then I managed to dig out the heated propagators from the shed, found out they still worked, which was good because that was an option, but they might not. They've been living in rather difficult situation down in the shed for the last year. It's been about 6 days ago now is when I watered them and got them set up. You saw at the beginning of the week I put my stand together where they're going for the grow lights. Obviously they take a bit of time to germinate, and so I didn't need to have the grow lights on them immediately. But anyway, we are set up, and I've been very, very worried about the temperature because they do need a big whack of heat, and normally this little setup is done downstairs next to the radiator in the sitting room. But I'd completely forgotten that we've actually got an extra sofa in the sitting room at the moment, temporarily. We've got no kitchen floor and all the cupboards have been ripped out, so we've got all of the pots and pans and everything stored from the kitchen just piled up at that side of the sitting room. And then we've got, yeah, basically it isn't going to happen downstairs next to the radiator this year. Like I said, that was next to a radiator, and I did find the radiator made a big difference. So I would be like moving them against the radiator. Those ones would pop up. I'd move the next ones to the radiator. They would pop up because they do need a lot of heat. And so 2 days ago, no chilies had popped up. I mean, I know I'm being impatient. They take time. But I just know that it's not 28 degrees in there. It's about maybe 20 at an absolute maximum. It's not even 20, that's nonsense. It's probably about 15 to be fair, because the house is pretty chilly, and that's only, you know, maybe 5-6 degrees hotter than the surrounding temperature. I have bought myself a little heat mat, which is a mat that goes underneath the trays, and then it's got a thermostat on it, or it's supposed to have a thermostat on it. I haven't actually opened it yet. And that was to really bring up the temperature on my chilies. However, we have movement in the chili chamber. Please step this way. Here is my very minimal little grow setup. So that is 1 champion, 2 Korean, and an aroma habanero has made an appearance. I'm still going to get my heat mat out because I actually only have 2 of those little propagators anyway, and I'm about to put 2 more trays together. But this is a really tiny little, let me open it up. This is a really tiny little heat mat. I just got it off Amazon. I will put the link underneath, but I had a look at the reviews and this one actually came out pretty well. And sometimes, like normally you get heat mats that go in the big seed trays. First of all, I don't have any space for that kind of thing. I just don't. And the only place I have space for them is up at the actual allotment, but we don't have power at the allotment, so it'd be completely useless. So I was quite excited to find a little one, which should fit on that shelf absolutely perfectly. And then I've got my little thermostat, so we should be away, chaps. We should be away. Just let that relax. It's a bit like at the moment. So yeah, we are slowly building up quite a good setup. Now I'm following along with JB's kind of chili growing specials that he's doing this year, because I was saying to you last week, I've had some years where I've been wildly successful with chilies and they've just been outstanding and wonderful. And then I've had some years, like last year, where they just never really got themselves going. And so I'm going to follow somebody who actually knows what they're doing. But he's doing like a series of videos kind of taking you through the stages. But we are not talking chilies right now. We are talking aubergine. So as is per usual with me, I have got more varieties than I have space to actually grow, so I've had to be really quite cutthroat. I tried to get a nice big selection. So the first one that I'm growing is the bog standard Black Beauty. This is like your absolute cartoon aubergine. On Potty Mouth last week when we were talking to Tony O'Neill, he was saying that this is the variety that he always grows, and I mean seriously, it's so reliable. The fruit is big, it's black, it's beautiful. So definitely putting in some Black Beauty. But I'm doing 3 others as well. One of them is another similar shape to the Black Beauty, so classic aubergine shape, but it is a white and purple striped one, which I did try to grow last year, but this particular variety got caught up in the compost fiasco and died a death, so we never actually got a fruit off it. But it is called Listada. So I'm doing Black Beauty and Listada are my 2 big sized aubergine plants, and I'm going to do 2 long skinny ones too. Viserba, which I've had a lot of success with in the past, it produces not huge, they're about this sort of length, maybe what's that, 15 centimeters long, very skinny aubergines, but they're absolutely delicious, and really they don't have that bitter edge that you sometimes get with aubergine, you know, when you fry it and it gets that sort of, this doesn't have it. Which is a beautiful, beautiful trait for an aubergine. And then I'm doing a white, long, skinny one too. So this was one that Ian at Grown Local actually gave me. I didn't order this seed. It came in with a really lovely, he sent me some microgreens to try because I'm constantly useless with microgreens, so I'm going to give them a go too. But this was in with the packet. It's called White Night, and it is a long, skinny white one. So I've got 2 skinnies and 2 fats this year. Anyway, let's get 4 aubergine varieties in the soil. Now, I have just realised that I am not using my microphone. I really hope the sound from that first half is okay. Let me go and get it. Are we on? We are. Oh, I do hope the sound was all right from the fire. I remember at the allotment, because I have so many sound problems at the allotment, but I completely forgot. And the whole video that I did of the January seed sowing, I didn't have the microphone on either. What a nincompoop! Sorry about that. Right, let's sow these aubergines. First one going in is the Viserba. I'm going to sow 5 of each variety. I don't really want 5 plants of each. I probably want 2. But I've had problems with germinating aubergine in the past, and I don't tend to get the number that I sow. Now I've said that, I'm going to end up with 5 of every variety. There's always somebody who will take an aubergine plant off you. Okay, Reserve. I also don't have any new sticks, so I'm reusing. Where is my pencil? Found one. Sorry. Viserba. There you go, little chaps. Okay, next one to go in is going to be White Night. They're ever so fiddly little aubergine seed. Oh, these ones are really slim. Thank you very much, Ian, for sending me these, by the way. That was such a nice surprise to open that little box and be like, oh, exciting things inside. Very jolly. Okay, that is 5 White Night. Right, so what I want to know is what aubergines are you growing this year? And also, are you growing them outside? Because if I get... Well, this is interesting. I definitely grew these last year because there's only 1 seed left in it. Okay. Right, well, I won't be doing 5 of you then. Just the 1. Brilliant. Oh, you plonker. You plonker. Right, well, there's one of those ones. We are fully invested in you, little seed. You're the only one. I'll just sow some extra, seems, because you know it's nice when the seed all lines up in the tray. But I will sow extra of the Black Beauty because despite us having a really rubbish couple of months in the middle of summer, the July, August, beginning of September, just grey and rained the whole time, I had excess aubergines from last year, and so I just bung them out in a bed because I didn't want to let them go to waste. And the Black Beauty actually did okay outside. I mean, no, it wasn't magnificent and covered in fruit, but I got a fruit off it, which is more than I was expecting, and the plants themselves actually grew really well. So I think there's potential that if we don't have a rubbish summer, I might actually get some outdoor aubergines. So I'm going to fill up the 2 rows of the Black Beauty. Wait, hey, right, Fandabby Dozy. Woo! Okay, so we move on to peppers. One thing that is slightly irritating is that I have run out of my lolly stick labels. I've got a box of about 40 million of them, but they're all at the allotment. I haven't brought any home with me, so I'm going to have to draw these out on a map and then label them as soon as I can run up to the allotment and get some more labels. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of aubergines. They're labelled, that's fine. And then we've got 4 rows of peppers that I need to list. Right, what peppers are we doing? Okay, the first 2 peppers that are going in are a bit like the Black Beauty aubergines. 2 peppers that if any of them are going to do well outside, it's going to be these 2. So it is sweet chocolate pepper and lipstick sweet. This is from Chris, thank you very much. And I do believe all the ones in these packets came from Ali, which is pretty amazing. Thank you very much, both of you. The lipstick sweet is a Romano style pepper, you know, so long and thin, red. And the chocolate is more of a bell pepper, you know, like a short fat number. But both of them do well outside, supposedly. Whether they do well in my outside, I don't know. But I'm going to get them in. Yeah, so these guys are probably going to be outdoors purely because space issues. I have very limited indoor growing space. The chili peppers are the chili, like the hot chilies, and probably some of the peppers, but not all of them, are going to be grown in the greenhouse this year, whereas I had them in the polytunnel last year, and I just don't think they did very well. I mean, as well as the crappy summer. I think it just wasn't the right type of heat for them because the greenhouse is quite a dry heat and the polytunnel is much, much damper. So things grow differently in them. This year I'm going to try and get the aubergines into the polytunnel. Haven't grown them in there before, but I want to put them in the polytunnel because I've been having a lot of problems with red spider mite on both cucumbers and aubergines. And if it's a humid environment, the red spider mite don't like that. So I'm going to kind of shunt them around and see if they do any better in the polytunnel. Next up, red bullhorn. This is a long, very long, supposedly, Romano pepper. You can understand why it would be called long bullhorn. But Romano peppers are Mum's absolute favourite. She really loves them. So hopefully we get some this year because we got maybe 3 last year. None of them were particularly big. A bit poo. That was a bit poo. And this one, interesting. Sweet bonnet. I've had this one last year, didn't try it. It is like a Scotch bonnet pepper. Supposedly it's got that same really smoky flavour, but without the heat. So that should be quite an interesting one. I'm going to do another 5 of these. I've got 5 seed, which I have. Fantastico. As you can see, I'm not a precious sower, as long as they're in there somewhere. So I must keep on top of this list, otherwise I am doomed. What was that one? Red bullhorn. Red bullhorn. And sweet bonnet. Lovely. Let's get some compost on there. Once again, favourite compost, good old Silver Grow. I am so over using other composts, just sticking to it now. You know, it's a bit like when I was saying, when you find a good variety, you stick with it. Well, same goes for compost, particularly in these days of peat-free, where some of them are so rubbish. And none of them are cheap. You know, compost isn't a cheap thing. You don't want to spend your money on it and find out it's poo. Right. Okay, the next pepper, Frigatello, the one I grow every year. Beautiful pepper. I say beautiful, actually. It's quite an ugly pepper. It's like a right gnarly green mess. They don't grow straight. They grow kind of all crooked and crumpled, almost like paper. But such a good tasting little pepper. I really do rate it. It's a lovely one. And I was saying on Potty Mouth the other day that it's got such a thin like pepper wall. They're quite hollow, that the skins are thin enough and the flesh itself is thin enough that you can put them in the dryer and make pepper powder. So instead of like chili powder, it's like a really good green pepper powder. God, that was absolutely outstanding last year. Don't forget to write down what you're sowing, woman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, can't count. Another one I've grown before, doing Corbaci. I was talking about this one the other day as well. It is a lovely pepper for pickling. A really nice one. The one I originally was growing of this was a pepper called Kill. That was, I can't remember where it was from now. Turkish. Anyway, it was beautiful. But these are very, very similar. And I don't have any of the old seed for the Kill peppers left, so I'm doing these ones instead. And the next three, total gamble. Never grown them before. Sent to me extremely kindly by a girl called Petra. And she sent me loads. I mean, she sent me about 9 different varieties, all of which I can't pronounce. And I'm not sure. They're all called paprika because that's just meaning pepper. But there's lots of different varieties here. And I've picked 3 out of them. I have got this one. I'm just going to show you the pictures. There is this one, which looks like a classic, or like what we would call like a paprika style chili pepper. There's this one. How beautiful does that look? Sorry, I've got a name on it. Just to remind me who gave them to me. But yeah, round. Almost look like a tomato, but obviously you can see from the top piece that it's definitely a pepper. And then these ones. So they are the last 3 that are going in. I mean, the reason I've got her name written on here is something that I was really unexpected from like doing this, well, YouTube, but also Instagram and being online, really, because it's not, I'm like the least likely person to be doing this. And it's interesting because a lot of things that I wasn't expecting came along with it. But one of the things I really wasn't expecting was the generosity of people and them wanting to send me seed, which is, I mean, it's so lovely. Who doesn't love getting sent seed? But my word, do I have a lot of it. And I would need, I mean, 2 things. First of all, I would need like an acre to grow the number of varieties and exciting varieties of things that I've got. So it's trying to meter it out year on year. I just don't have enough space for that. But the other thing is that when people started sending me seed, I wasn't aware that it was going to be a thing. And my goodness, I lost track so quickly of who had sent me what. And it's one of my big regrets from this whole process is not being able to specifically thank people for seed that they've given me or varieties, because then I've then sown them. And even if I've known who sent me the seed at the beginning, I haven't kept note of it. And yeah, a big failing on my part. So if you've seen me sowing seed that you've given me and I haven't directly thanked you, please accept my apologies. It's one of my New Year's resolutions was to be really, really careful to make sure I remember exactly who has given me what. because it's very poor show on my behalf. I just wasn't aware that it was going to be a thing, and it's just suddenly like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Right, now how am I going to note these ones down? I'm going to do, I think this one is called, right boys and girls, the Socrates cucumbers are going in. I've actually got, what have we got here? I've covered my lines up. Where are we? There, there. Right, I've got 8 spaces here. I certainly do not need 8 cucumbers. Luckily, I've got full 4 Socrates, which is wonderful. However, call me insane, but I've got an idea that if a cucumber will work from January, kept indoors the whole time here in the conservatory, or the conservatory is underneath me at the moment in the conservatory. What about a melon? What do you think? I mean, it's worth a go, isn't it? I've got 4 empty holes. I've got Sugar Baby and Minnesota Midget, and I'm going to try 2 of each. Let's just have a go. I find with melons, like, they often only really start getting going and fruiting really quite late in the year. So maybe this is a way around it. The Minnesota Midget is a cantaloupe style melon. I've grown that one for years and actually had quite a lot of success with it on the years where we've had some sunshine. Last year it was Red Spider Mite Fest and no sun, so it didn't do so well. This is the first year I am trying Sugar Baby, which is a miniature watermelon. I know I wouldn't be able to grow a large watermelon because we just don't have the heat for it, but a little one, it's possible. It's possible. Right, and then on those 2 we have got a little bit of a dusting of this on top. And we're good to go. Now I need to go and pick up the labels from the allotment, so I'll probably see you up there.
All green boxes, do you? For planting? You're not doing those?
Oh, yeah,
They're all
actually,
in
yes,
here.
please. Could you give me a couple of the little ones?
Small ones?
Yeah.
Beauty!
Pretty fluff. You got so much fluff. There's so much fluff. So much fluff on that little girlie. Meh. Super fluff. So although I am here to pick up labels, the weather forecast is telling us it is going to be freezing over the next couple of days. So what we've done, rather than dig up the dahlias, because I know I kept saying I need to dig up the dahlias, but the problem is I don't have anywhere really great to store them, and they've rotted out a good couple of times. So we have just jammed loads of leaves underneath these, the plastic little cloche things we've got, and we're going to hope for the best. We also, because of the cold coming, we're going to shunt this Enviromesh box over just to give this bit of chard a little bit of protection. We've had quite a lot of success keeping chard going, even the softer stuff like this peppermint, right the way over the winter so that we get it really good in spring. Normally we've also got some in the polytunnel, but obviously we don't this year. So this is extra precious. So yeah, we might be mollycoddling it a little bit. It probably doesn't desperately need it, but yeah. We're going to cover it up anyway, and I will pick up the labels and then I will see you at home for a glass of wine.
Chaps, cheers. Chillies are up, aubergines are in. Very, very exciting. And it's only early January. It is pretty exciting. So I want to know some things. I want to know what aubergines you're growing this year, what chilies and what sweet peppers, and are you having a go at the cucumbers? Let me know. So although I've got the lists of the aubergines and the peppers and things, the list of what I'm growing chili wise is on the January seed sowing video that I stuck out sort of randomly on Saturday. So I'll put a link to that underneath. I'm also going to put a link to the sort of interview / chat that I did with Tony, but it was a nice little video, so I'll stick that underneath too. I didn't get round to the microgreens. This week has been a bit all over the place. I'm not used to putting out 2 videos and an interview and potty mouth. It's been a bit all over the place. I'm going to have to get myself in gear if this is the way the year is shaping up. So microgreens are going to be in next week's vlog. I do need to apologise for the sound for the first half of that sowing section. I mean, I've got my microphone on now. I actually remembered it. But I was amazed when I watched back over the footage when I was editing it. You actually cannot hear those aeroplanes. I'm not kidding. These are like A380s coming over the top of us, landing at Heathrow. You couldn't hear it. It's wonderful. I never have to think about it again. It's a whole new world. It is a whole new world. To all those people who were telling me for probably the last year, you need to get a mic. You need to get a mic. You were absolutely right. But we're sort of coming up on the end of it. We are going to have some beautiful sunny weather coming up next week. Now, I know I'm always saying that and that the weather forecast is nonsense, but actually it was supposed to start clearing like this afternoon and tonight, get really, really cold this evening because obviously no cloud cover, and it's now dark and there's stars outside, so I am fully expecting there to be a beautiful, beautiful sunny day tomorrow, although I can't be at the allotment tomorrow, but we've got a special visitor coming. We're not going to the allotment, but we're going to be traipsing around London for a bit, so you will see her in the next vlog. And other than that, chaps, I think it's just cheers. It's just cheers. The new year has started with a bang, which is very exciting. So much going on. It's brilliant. So cheers to my Patreons, who are the people you see listed at the end of this video every single week. They are the sole reason that this vlog continues. I am incredibly grateful for their support. And thank you so much to everybody who watches every week. You're all a joy. You're all a joy. Actually, something, sorry, I know I said I was going, but having done like the chat with Jane last week and Tony, and then we've been talking about it a bit on Potty Mouth because Tony O'Neill was on there talking about his book. Been talking a lot about kind of the process of YouTube and sort of what that means. It's a weird job. And yeah, the job wouldn't exist without people watching. People watching and people quietly supporting you behind the scenes, and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful. So this is cheers to all of you. Thank you very much. See you next week. Are you any good at growing microgreens? If you've got any tips, let me know.